with all due respect.
I don't think mine's updated yet. If yours has changed.
Yeah, Zoom's got some stuff going on. I am going to learn how to use it better, be more efficient. I am going to learn how to cut from. You know what I want to do? YouTube Shorts.
Yeah.
I looked at our stuff, and this is episode 28, by the way.
We
It's
were really just chatting and we said, let's just go ahead and start it. Let's
Thursday
just get
morning,
into
man. It's
it.
Thursday morning. It's November 14th. I don't know when you're watching this, but it's November 14th. And
Okay, but I do feel like with
Liquid
YouTube
IV.
Shorts, Liquid IV, there you go. I do feel like with YouTube Shorts, they upload automatically if your video is below a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
But I forget about things like I'm so bad about having multiple social medias because
I don't know how people
it's
do
so
it.
much work. It's
We've
so much work. And
we've talked about
TikTok to
so
me
many.
is like
Yeah, you like TikTok.
I do, but I don't I like sometimes like to post on it and then I'll go through like a really long stint where I'm like I just want to watch what other people say and like laugh at other people. And I learn a lot from TikTok, which is really cool too. Like Instagram to me has kind of become like a shopping center, whereas TikTok to me has kind of become like a world of information, whether it's like funny or it's news or it's the fucking hippo moodang that's being born at the zoo. Like I love it. So that to me, I'm sometimes like, I don't want to post because I don't care,
We've
you
talked to
know?
a lot of people who have worked in the fitness industry who have said it's very, very tiring. They feel like they have to be social media people too.
Yeah.
And the only reason I was talking about YouTube Shorts is we have tons of traction on YouTube Shorts. Um, but and
Because a lot of people use
I
it.
can manage YouTube. Well, I mean, it's short.
Yeah. I think I need to remember to just post on it. Like we have so many
I'll just do
clips
YouTube
that are
Shorts. Yeah, I'll just take clips and
short.
post to YouTube Shorts.
Yeah,
Right?
I really should do that.
We do a tons of stuff on Reels. We do short Reels and put them on YouTube Shorts.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Yeah.
the podcasts I like Lex Friedman. If you know who Lex Friedman
Hmm.
is, super
Hmm.
dry. Like he's super dry, right?
Yeah.
But he has people on there I like. But you can clip it. He clips it into like little chapters. I've never ever watched one of his full podcasts, but I've watched 20, 30 minute little clips while I'm doing something. And I've watched a lot of like 1, 2, 3 minute clips of just content.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
So when
smart.
people are like, "Did you watch that whole Lex Friedman?" That's 3 hours long, dog. Like, like,
Yeah.
like I can barely sit down and like get through anything that's 3 hours. So it just doesn't work
Yeah. The
anymore.
only time I can manage that is like when I'm driving.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when I listen to the Casey and Callie Means content driving. And I find myself rewinding, playing, you
All the
know.
time.
Yeah. Rachel was in
Mhm.
the car with me. She's like, I'm just not interested. And I'm like, did you hear what they just said? Can you believe that? I'm rewind. She's like, this. And I'm getting all worked up. And like Asher's like, Dad, this is horrible. And I'm like, how
Yeah.
can you handle that? You know, like that. So
You're being crazy.
yeah, I was just like rewinding, listening. That's crazy. Blah 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 blah. Listen to the stats of like chronic disease and all that kind of stuff is crazy. But that leads us a little to our conversation today. And I said, the sway in health culture.
Yeah.
Man, it's amazing how one event can change things, right?
Yeah.
How one event can change and can change man, just what's acceptable, what's good to say, what's bad to say. Um, I will say, and we've talked about this, that neither of us like the concept, and we got a group chat, me, you, and Mike wants, right? It's a
Mhm.
great group chat, dude. And guys, when he graduates, I hope he's more involved and we do great things and we have more services for our people through a great guy who can help you more medically than we can. Um, through consults and things like that is my hope. And more
Mhm.
content, more consults for people that are outside the scope of what we can do, right? Because we have a scope of what we can do. We learn from Mike, and I give a lot of people advice through Mike, and I coach people
Mhm.
through content Mike has said, but we can't do a lot of things. Mike does, just stay inside our scope of health coaches and not medical professionals.
Right.
I will say, I do think that between me, you, and Mike, I can help you a lot better than your doctor can.
Totally agree. In
Unless you,
most cases, unless you have a killer doctor,
yeah,
unless you have an amazing doctor.
yeah, unless you need a Z pack, I can't
Mhm.
prescribe that. But
But Mike will be able
Mike will be
to.
able to. But unless you need a full long term, and if you need a full outlook on what to do to things to improve your health to avoid the doctor, I'm going to help you. It sounds so egotistical to say it.
No, I just
We're probably
think
going to
I
help
don't, you know, I have to say that it's not coming from a stance of ego because I'm not going to pretend like I know everything. You're not going to pretend like you know everything. I just know what I do works.
you.
And I know
Mm-mm.
what I do helps people in the long run to not be on medication and to sleep better and to feel better and to gain muscle mass and to do all of these things, to learn how to eat. Like I just know what I do works and I know what I do follows science that's not tied to the medical system,
Mhm.
period. And I'm not hating on medicine. I think medicine is absolutely necessary in a lot of cases. I think what we've done in the healthcare industry is absolutely necessary in most cases, but I will say the way that we take care of wellness inside of healthcare is not what I like. It's
I
not the
do
direction
think doctors
I want to
realize
go in.
doctors have realized they're losing their grip. Look
Yeah,
at the decrease in the number of people that trust their doctor. It went from like 70 to
right,
40%.
right.
Right. Um, Doctors
And
have,
if to play devil's advocate there too, doctors are still humans and they're still learning and like they went through medical school that taught them all of these things. I just think when it comes to healthcare and wellness and nutrition and fitness, like we have to constantly stay educated with new science that's coming out. Because I love what Mike said in our group chat the other day. Like science is completely a process, like it's a circular process. It's identify something, test something, retest it, keep going, like full process all the way around to make sure it's continuously working. And when we find that it's not continuously working or there's something that has come along that's better, like we have to accept that and we have to program that into what we're doing.
science also allows us to question.
Yeah.
And
And science isn't perfect.
I feel like doctors have become so defensive
Mm,
because they're trying to hold on to their authority.
yeah.
Because they say things, well, I went to med school. I don't care. That's a call to authority. You can still be
Yeah.
wrong,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
You can still be
Exactly.
wrong. You
You're
great
still
call.
human.
You have a call to authority because you're a doctor, but I can't tell you how many people tell people just eat less carbs fast and eat a Mediterranean diet and move more, right? I said, so that doesn't work, right? You're an idiot, right? But doctors are really trying to hold on to their power, their control, and where you saw that is prior to COVID, doctors were like, oh, this doctor has a problem. I got a problem with this doctor. I got this doctor and this doctor. And we heard like, oh, trust the science, trust the doctor, trust. Man, if I hear that one more time, I'm going to jab something down someone's throat. Trust the doc, trust the science, trust this, trust doctor. And all of a sudden, when people started questioning doctors, then all the doctors came together and were like, "Oh, we're doctors. We're doctors.
Like, don't confuse your Google
yeah,
search with my medical degree. I'm like, well,
yeah,
now we have AI.
yeah." And you know
So,
what? I'm very thankful for the doctor that put my arm together. I'm very thankful the doctor that put my
yeah.
neck together. I'm very thankful when I got sick last Christmas and was literally sick on Christmas Day that I could call and get medicine to help me get healthy, right?
Right.
But for general health advice, I'm not listening to a doctor. And I've known people that have gone through med school that have said, I ain't listening to doctors, right? For my
Yeah.
health. I've heard them say, I've heard people say that have gone through the process of whatever medical degree they have. They're like, yeah, I heard a doctor say yesterday that they don't believe in habit change. It doesn't work. What?
It's just
What?
really frustrating. That's just really frustrating because
Yeah.
it
What
does
do you mean
work.
you don't believe in habit change? Like, man, that's a miserable life you got, man, if you don't believe
Yeah.
in that you have control over your habits, right?
I
So
said one of our very first episodes, and it might have been our very first episode. I don't trust any kind of healthcare specialist unless
doesn't
they
listen.
follow a similar plan to me, unless they are working out and eating well. I don't know what they're doing in their sleep time and stuff, but unless I know it from talking to them and what their recommendations are, like I won't go see them. I will change my doctor because I just don't see the value in listening to somebody tell me that I need X, Y, and Z medication when I know from what I do and the education and the time that I've put in towards my education and knowledge that I'll be fine and I can actually go and work out and eat well and
Mhm.
I'll probably be all right, you
Yeah,
know?
the definition of belief is shown in how you act out what you believe.
Yeah,
Right? That's the definition of belief. I can tell if you believe in something, if I tell my kid that the stove is hot, he grabs the stove and it burns himself, he didn't believe me.
right.
Right. Right. So, you know, um, how you act out your belief is the true definition of belief. Right. Um, that's why some people bang on religion, right?
Yeah,
They look at it
yeah,
and they look how someone acts and they go, I don't buy it. Right. And he goes,
right.
Gandhi said, I'd be more likely to believe in your Jesus if you acted more like him. Right. So, I mean,
Habits are caught.
yeah, yeah, habits are caught, not taught. But I do think that we are starting to reframe what health is, and it's only been a week and 2 days since an election where somebody like RFK has made make America healthy again. It's very unfortunate that that's become a political stance. I don't I
Yeah,
don't I don't politicize health. I hate that. I've said it many times. I don't like that you can be big and strong and athletic and healthy these days, and people assume that you follow a certain ideological path in your politics. We
yeah,
don't need to politicize health. Everybody should have access and information to know how to be healthy themselves. I don't
100%.
care who you are. I I I do believe that I do believe in individual beauty. I don't believe 100% that everybody's healthy.
Right. And we've talked
Right?
about this
Yeah.
before too. 100%. It really bothers me that people are trying to find something wrong with the actual like saying and idea of making America healthy again. Like I know that things are going to be flawed. I know that a plan
Mhm.
of, that magnitude might not always follow something that you might believe. However, if you are one of those people that's trying to find something wrong with making America healthy again, like you are the problem. I'm just going to put that out there. We have to have healthy conversations. And if you're going to be somebody that's going to tear down the whole entire idea because it doesn't exactly fit your narrative, like that's an issue, you
I
know?
do I do have I am a person that believes that I look at every person based on individually of who you are, right?
Mhm.
I hate ideologies, but I'm a little bit more of a libertarian, and I believe in autonomy of the individual, right?
Yeah,
I
agreed.
believe
Same.
in the freedom of the individual as long as what you're doing isn't hurting somebody else, as
Mhm.
long as you don't push your narrative on somebody else, as long as you don't force it on somebody else. Um, I believe you should have the freedom to practice and do what you want as long as it doesn't impose on somebody else's freedom and their ability to do and act how they want. And I do get a little bit of question in my brain with people who start getting radical around the concept of not the idea of make America healthy again. Because when I hear that said, I said, well, who wouldn't be involved,
Right.
right?
Right.
No difference than when somebody says something like um, Black Lives Matter. Well, of course they do. Yeah,
Mhm.
you can believe in the saying and still reject some of the ideology built around it, right?
Yeah.
And and when they start saying about like we're going to legalize this with food and that and this and make that illegal, make that illegal, make that illegal, I said, yeah, well, yeah, I agree with that. Like, I agree we need to change. I think it's weird that we're allowed certain things to be put in our foods that Europe isn't allowed to be put in our foods, right? That can you agree with that? Can you just be like
Yes.
you look at the ingredients you look at the ingredients on a bowl of cereal, and then you look at the ingredients on a bowl of cereal in Europe, you're like, wow, it's a lot of junk, right? Like, what is
Yeah.
that, right? And yeah, that's not. That disparity shouldn't be allowed. Um, but I get nervous when we start talking about words like banning.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
banning? That's whoa. And
Well,
and
because
I
you've never really been one for like cancel culture or
oh
anything like
no
that. You're just like,
no,
it's annoying, like leave it alone, you
I'm
know?
completely anti cancel culture. I'm completely anti um what do you call it? I just lost my track of thought. I'm identity politics. I'm
Yeah.
completely against political correctness. Right.
Yep.
Political correctness. That is. So that's an attempt to just silence you with political correctness, right?
Yeah. Well, you're not one for ideologies at
No, not
all,
at all. No,
which,
not
you
at all.
know,
No,
is,
ideology is a prison, right?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I do get nervous when we start talking about banning this, banning that, banning this, banning that. I'm kind of like, whoa, like, and I said this, somebody put a post up recently, I commented underneath it, and I said, regardless of everything around us that is set up for us to fail, poison in foods, um, all the how easy it is to get on medications. We have no help around being healthy, right? There's really no incentive to being healthy.
Yeah.
Um, Healthcare is so expensive. I mean, what we pay in healthcare is ridiculous for considering we're healthy people,
Hmm.
right? You should incentivize being healthy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I should not have to pay the same as somebody else for healthcare. I'm never going to use the system, right?
Yeah. I don't use it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't use.
I go
I
once
don't.
a year to
Yeah,
my
yeah.
doctor.
My dentist, right?
Yeah.
But and I said, regardless of all these things that are set up against you to fail, um, you still have a personal responsibility to do it. I had a client who travels to Europe. He's like, man, it's crazy. Every time I go to Europe, I lose 10 or 15 pounds. Can't wait for the United States to change how we manage food. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. You still have the ability to do the same thing in the United States
Yeah.
that you have in Europe. It's still a personal choice.
It's not a, it's yeah, it's not a crutch. You know, it's not
Yeah.
one of those things where it's like, and things are not going to change that quickly. It's not
No.
like, you know, by February 2025,
Mhm.
we're going to have none of these ingredients and you're automatically going to lose that weight, yada, yada, yada. It's still very much so personal responsibility. And I've seen so many videos like on TikTok of people almost like bashing personal responsibility. And I'm just like, we are 100% responsible for the things that we do.
But
100%.
it's not my
How do
fault.
you even argue with that?
It's not my fault. I'm overweight and out of shape. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
I'm
It's
like,
1000% your fault.
but then there's, you know, there's always a gray area of like medical issues and these things. And I
Hmm.
understand that. And I will
Hmm.
never discredit that. But you are still 100% responsible with whatever medical issue that you might have of taking care of that. And it might make things a lot harder for you. And I'm not saying that like you're overweight and you've been devalued based on that. Not at all. What I'm saying is you are still personally responsible for caring for yourself, no matter what you are thrown, because you will feel better. You will feel better if you take care of yourself.
People feel better when you say, "Oh, you didn't have a choice. It's not your fault."
Yeah. Right. Of
Right? They
course.
feel better. Oh, it's not. You didn't have a choice. No, everything I've screwed up in my life,
This
everything
is my fault.
is my fault. And when you take
Yeah.
responsibility for that, you begin to stand on a platform that means, well, guess what? Getting better is only up to me.
Yeah.
When you take personal responsibility for where you're at, health wise, when you take personal responsibility for where you're at health wise, you create a platform of freedom to realize that you're the only person you need to dig out of that.
Yeah.
If it's somebody
100%.
else's fault that you're fat and out of shape, then you're like, well, now I got to rely on that person and that change to not be out of shape. No, you don't. Like, you don't need a treadmill at your house.
Mhm.
Somehow we replaced the earth with a treadmill.
Yeah.
You can walk. I know Mike said this. You're going to do two things today, I promise. I promise. You're going to eat and you're going to sleep.
Hmm.
Some people aren't going to sleep, right?
Or not
Um,
well. Not enough.
some people aren't going to eat, right? But a larger, overwhelming majority of people are going to eat. And so you have complete choice of what time you go to bed, what kind of sleep you get, what kind of environment you create around your sleep, and you're still going to eat. And I tell this to clients all the time, like, oh, I'm going on vacation for 10 days. I don't know. No, you're still going to have a choice of what you
Yeah.
stuff in your face,
Yeah.
right? You have to take responsibility and you have to take accountability for that.
Yeah, and that's where I think I teeter between, you know, like empathy and discipline with people is like I understand that this is really hard at first. Like I understand that trying to reform the way that you think around these things can be really tough. So I'm being empathetic in that sense. However, I'm not going to be empathetic when you're still like telling me all of these things like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. I'm like, okay, well, that you just stopped yourself. If you're going to tell yourself, I constantly can't do this, I can't do that, it's too hard, you stopped yourself. That's it. You know,
Mm.
I think channeling that empathy is important. and working with people on that is important and how they speak to themselves. But at the same time, if you're going to constantly tell me that you can't do it, like there's nothing I can do for you until you come to a place where you can do it.
They're looking for that one excuse, Gray.
I know.
They're
I
looking
know.
for that one reason. One of the things I see is, well, we'll have friends coming over tonight.
Okay.
All right. I'm waiting for the next part. Right.
Yeah. Right. And
And what do you mean? What are you talking about? I do think the sway in health culture that we've seen in the last 9 days already. I don't know if you felt it. I felt it with people. Where it's gonna all of a sudden become kind of cool and okay to question the medical system and take responsibility for your health. Right?
I saw that before the last 9 days. I've been seeing that
Okay.
with a lot of people.
Um,
But you know what? I think it's more common now that people are kind of seeing through the bullshit of it and they're seeing the corporation side of it
oh
versus the
yeah.
customer service side of
Oh
it,
yeah. Yeah. I think
you
that's why
know?
we're fighting a big. This is why I don't think it's a political issue. I don't care what side of the spectrum you're on politically. Unfortunately, we are bipartisan. We're two people to choose from, right?
Yeah,
Um, they're all bought by big pharma, big food.
exactly.
They're all
No, and
pushed, right?
exactly. I mean, you find any politician that doesn't accept money based on some kind of issue and then push that issue.
And
Like
they're gonna vote.
our work, yeah, it's not perfect on either side. And I do like there has to be responsibility around that type of corruption. But I do think that the direction that this Make America Healthy Again is going to be a huge stepping stone for that because we're already seeing that article that came out and it's like however much money it was accepted by science journals to review something
Yeah,
with
one
skewed
point.
data.
Was it stupid? Was it
6 billion or
yeah, it was
million.
something
I have
ridiculous
it.
to skew
I
the
have it
data.
in
Do you
my,
really?
yeah, because I
Um,
posted about it because I was just like, this
the
is
NI it
not
was
an
it the NIH
issue,
took $1.9 million worth of
something
payouts or
like
something
that.
like that
Yeah. It's
for
something
research.
crazy.
Man, they scrub research. I mean, dude, look at the vaccine information. The COVID vaccine information that was scrubbed, that was redacted.
Yeah.
Holy crap! If that's not scary,
So it's
right?
pharma paid 1.06 billion to reviewers at top medical journals between 2020 and 2022, according to the Journal of American Medical Association. So that's just the kind of stuff that I feel like we're going to start seeing now is like, of course, people are like, trust the science. And I'm like, I do trust science. I don't trust corporations that have skewed science to favor their product.
Mhm.
And that's what we're seeing more now is people are actually being like, wait a second, that that doesn't add up. Like that
Yeah,
doesn't make
the
sense,
food pyramid, right?
Mhm.
The list of foods that
Trash.
the list of yeah, man, the list of foods that came out, where the guy was like, what do you say, like a bowl of Cheerios was better for you than the steak. Remember that guy that came out, that government official that came out with that list? I'm like, man, you're retarded, bro. Like that's the
Yeah.
dumbest thing I've ever heard. That just goes outside common sense, right? Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I tell people, trust with your eye, trust what your, I mean, use your common sense, and you don't need a
Yeah.
PhD to call
Yeah.
that bull crap, right? But
Yeah.
and there was this whole, I mean, you saw it, right? You saw, and I've said this, I do believe in beauty of all people. I don't believe that all people are healthy,
Mhm.
right? But you saw them start trying to change the shape of what healthy and beautiful was just when you saw Victoria's Secret start to change what they want to put out there, right? Like,
We actually talked about this last weekend with some friends, and one of my friends asked me my opinion on it, obviously because of what I do. And I said,
was she setting you up or was she genuinely
no, not setting me up, not
okay?
setting me up at all,
Yeah,
not at
yeah.
all.
Because when somebody asked me that,
I
I'm like, hmm,
I think it can be kind of a slap in the face to those that take care of ourselves because I'm not doing this for a moral high ground. I'm not doing this so that I can look at you who's not healthy, like, oh, I'm better than you because you're not healthy. Not at all. I'm doing this because I want myself to be on the highest pedestal that I can be personally, right? Like, I want myself to be at the highest level of performance that I can personally be. I want to constantly push myself. So when you are opening a space, in my opinion, for overweight people to be in Victoria's Secret, it is a slap in the face of those girls that have worked so hard to be where they're at. And I'm not at all saying that Victoria's Secret models are necessarily like healthy.
Okay,
I'm
yeah,
sure there's a lot of things that
yeah,
go into that. But I do know from a very young age, they work really, really hard to maintain this physique that they have. And I just think that can be really harsh for them. But I also am in a place where I'm like, I don't want people to feel like they can't do something. I
yeah,
just don't, I think there should be a little bit of separation there. I
yeah,
don't know. I know that's very controversial and I love to talk to people about it, but I just feel like if you're not working as hard for a physique when the whole thing of Victoria's Secret Angels is physique, how does that make any sense? Like they became angels because of their physique.
well, did you hear there's a
And I mean, they're beautiful too, but
there was a comedian when Lizzo came out with her whole thing, which is um being beautiful and wearing what she wears, and God, he goes, I had, and it's a comedian, I'll ad lib it. He's like, my wife told me that I need to think Lizzo's beautiful, but in the middle of sex, when I
Mhm.
told her she looks like Lizzo, she goes, she hasn't talked to me for a month.
Mhm.
Right. So I mean, but
Yeah,
I do think that is that the atmosphere is starting to change. Um, that I hate to say it, but like being in shape and being healthy and going against the grain of the medical community, and wanting our food system to be better, wanting our health system to be better, um, wanting to be incentivized for being healthy. Um, I think that is changing, and it's not a
yeah,
political issue, but I do think it is really going to change. I looked up, I got on a rabbit hole, um, and there's something out there in the medical community right now, and I wanted to share this with you. It's the value-based care model, right? Um, there has been a big push from multiple people I've talked about, including like um, even lobbyists, even uh, uh, attorneys, and people in the healthcare. I've had this conversation in the last week around what they feel is going to be a large push towards the value-based care and healthcare delivery model that prioritizes providing quality care to patients by focusing on healthy outcomes rather than the volume of services provided. In this model, healthcare providers such as hospitals, doctors, and clinics are incentivized, right? Remember, Casey Means said until there is an incentive to be healthy and provide good care, it won't change. Until
right.
you're incentivized for providing fast, healthy care, until you're incentivized for being healthy, until you are incentivized for not going to the doctor, you're
Mhm.
going to continue to be like, I'll just keep going to the doctor. Like,
Right,
why lose weight?
exactly.
I can just get blood pressure medicine, right? I can just keep getting
Yeah.
medicine, keep medicine. Okay. In this model, healthcare providers are incentivized to deliver care that improves patient health, enhances patient experiences, and reduces the overall cost of healthcare. I know for a fact, because I know somebody who was involved in this, there was a big time meeting around multiple people that work in healthcare just this past week, because they say this is coming. We better be ready for it. It is coming. Improve patient outcomes, improve cost efficiency, a patient centered care, collaborative approach, which with multiple people, including holistic treatment, and payment tied to outcomes. Payment for services is based on achieving positive patient outcomes and meeting specific health targets, as opposed to the traditional fee for service model, which is based on the number of services or procedures performed. Okay.
So it's still be taking on a larger patient load because it's based on the amount performed.
No,
Or
no,
is it
no.
just based on
This
the
is
overall
no.
outcome?
He's saying opposed to that.
Okay,
So,
okay.
so this
That's what I was
healthcare
gonna get into
model,
too.
this healthcare model is opposed, is the opposite of the
Okay.
traditional
Yeah,
fee
yeah,
for
yeah.
service model, which is based on
Cool.
the number of services or procedures. Here's an example. Recently had a conversation with a family who had a kid that had an injury. They go to the first, they get multiple opinions, which you should get multiple opinions. when you go to
Always.
doctors. When
Always.
you go to orthopedics, you should get multiple
Yeah.
opinions.
Hmm.
Because I tell you, the 65-year-old orthopedic is dealing with things a lot different than the 40-year-old orthopedic. Okay. Um, they go to a doctor and they said, you should get an MRI. And the doctor goes, you need to get two MRIs. Now, these are people that they're financially okay, good insurance.
Hmm.
They said, you should get this MRI. But with that MRI, we can't see things right. So you need to get a second MRI. Meanwhile, these are expensive.
Yeah, of course they are.
The same family, they're telling me the story, goes to a different doctor and goes, you don't need two MRIs. That guy's trying to take your money. Goes to a specialist. He goes, all I need is that one MRI to tell you everything you need to do. Don't listen to that doctor. And I'm like, wow. They use fear because it's their kid
Hmm.
who
Hmm.
has an injury
Hmm.
to double bill them for an MRI that a specialist doesn't even need.
Yeah.
How often is that happening? Like, it's amazing. I've seen, and I see it a lot in physical therapy. Listen,
Yeah.
a phenomenal place I know in physical therapy sees one patient every hour at a time. You go to
Hmm.
big hospital bullcrap physical therapy, they'll see four patients at one time with one therapist, hand them sheets and expect them to do it on their own. It's a wild, nobody's getting better. Nobody's,
Yeah.
they just saw four times the billing. That's all,
Yeah.
right?
I
I now hear doctors tell people, I've known this for a fact. A doctor told a kid, we could do surgery. You could be better in 4 weeks with physical therapy, or we could do surgery. And they go, it's your choice.
Yeah.
Your choice?
Yeah.
What? Like what?
It's insane. It's insane. I had a friend, a girl, reach out to me, uh, and her gynecologist said she's showing signs of endometriosis. That's a serious diagnosis, very serious
Mhm.
diagnosis. And so this gynecologist basically told her nothing, nothing, and filled some kind of I think it was maybe like a NuvaRing or something like that for her to go pick up.
Is that birth
And
control?
similar. And she got to the pharmacy and the pharmacist was like, have you ever used this before? And she was like, no, I've never even heard of it. And the pharmacist was handed her a pamphlet and shoot her out, essentially. There's nothing in the pamphlet. Like literally nothing in the pamphlet.
Man, you really need to learn to advocate for yourself these days, don't you?
Well, and it's,
Right?
she's very young. Like she is very young and doesn't know,
Younger than you? Younger than
doesn't
you?
know what questions to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, younger than me.
Now I do
And
remember you had struggles with like a birth control issue, right?
I just had like acne around my birth control. It
No,
wasn't
but
anything
you say it was
serious.
just acne, but you took it for like you were like, "Hey, y'all, this needs to go away." Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it's like one of those, birth control is a whole another topic, but it's one of those things where everybody is on birth control.
Hmm.
And I have this like thought all the time about, what if we change sex ed? Because sex ed is such bullshit. Sex ed in class is literally like there's a diagram of a penis on a screen and everybody's laughing like we don't pay attention, so then it's like talking through actual issues around reproduction and all of these things, but that's a song for another time. But everybody's on birth control just because nobody wants to get
Well,
pregnant.
every woman is.
Yeah, yes,
Men can
yes,
do it if
every
they want.
woman is.
Men can do
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, I think we have to start advocating for ourselves. Their education is coming out, and I think the system and the status quo is nervous about that. I think they
yeah.
really are. I've seen um physical therapists um prescribe post rehab for an ACL surgery, and they'll look at the person's insurance and they say, okay, this person's insurance handles takes 20 appointments. So we're going to get them for 20 appointments, 10 weeks, two times a week.
Mhm.
They've looked at the next person that handles their insurance covers 40 insurance covers. So they're going to bill them, they're going to see them for 20 weeks. They're not looking at the best possible outcome. They're just looking to maximize the number of insurance billings they can get to you,
Yeah. And so
right?
like I've had that conversation too of like, oh, we just see so many patients every day. And I'm like, that's your choice. If you feel like you don't have adequate time with a patient, that's your choice.
Well, big hospital pushes that, right?
Yeah.
Around here in Columbia, big hospitals, everybody's been purchased. It's not owned by big
Hmm.
hospitals.
Yeah.
And they will push everybody to not have the greatest outcome, but to bill the most people, to see the most people, to build the most services, to make the most money. It's oppressive. Okay. It is 100% oppressive because costs keep rocking, skyrocketing, keep skyrocketing. Care keeps getting worse. Care keeps getting worse. Care keeps getting worse.
But
I've
it's
seen,
because we're dependent on the healthcare system. If we weren't so dependent on the healthcare system, we'd have more time in the day. There would be
yeah,
less patients.
yeah. Um, every time I've seen a physical therapist, I paid for it out of pocket
Mhm.
because I have friends that allow me to pay fee for the service.
You know who I see. They don't take insurance.
Yeah, yeah, right. And I just and that's and there needs to be a model that incentivizes for healthy people,
Yeah.
right? There needs to be a model that incentivizes for healthy people. Um, I don't see a doctor. Now, that's probably going to change. I'm getting older, right? I'm going to have more issues, right? Um, but why do I pay so much for healthcare? And if I
Yeah.
don't now, the IRS comes after you because the Affordable Care Act says you have to have healthcare insurance. So they can either sell it to you if you don't, force you to have it so you can pay out big money to the insurance companies.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was lobbied pretty hard by the insurance companies,
Hmm.
right, to make that happen.
Hmm.
Now I pay a mortgage payment to have health care in a system that I don't even use,
Yeah.
right? And it's that expensive because my neighbor, and I don't, this isn't true. I'm just trying to use it as a whatever.
Somebody in your
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. Somebody in my community is 70 pounds overweight, is on 15 medications, goes to the doctor every week. Why am I paying as much as they are?
Right. Right. So I mean that's kind of where I was talking about previously with just like frustration, and it's not at all because like I said, I've seen so many girls post on TikTok. It's like people think they have a moral superiority to people that are unhealthy. And I'm like, no, it's not that. It's just I work so freaking hard to maintain what I have and be healthy and teach other people how to be healthy that it can be frustrating when it's so easy to be overweight.
Uh-huh.
That's where the frustration lies. And I wanted to talk about this too. A lot of people like to argue that being healthy is like a rich person's sport, right? It's like for the rich. It's what we can afford, like rich people can afford. And I'm just like, that argument to me is so tired. It's so tired because we know, I just sent you that video the other day. Going to Chipotle and getting a Chipotle bowl is like $13. And this guy made a Chipotle bowl for 5 days. And it was like, what was it, like
Yeah. Yeah.
$2.67 for
$2. I
five
want to say
different
like two
meals?
seventy five, two seventy
Right.
five
And
cost each meal. Yes.
right. So it's like if you're comparing Whole Foods produce to Walmart produce, of course there's going to be a difference, but every grocery store has produce and every farmer's market has produce. Like there's so many different places to buy that. And I loved that same post that I was talking about with the $1 billion review. Ultra processed food and having so much access to ultra processed food is affecting every single community. Having access to being overweight, like overweight being such an easy thing, affects every single community, not just rich, middle class, and poor people. And it's like the argument of spending money on a gym. I'm like, okay, yeah, well, you don't have to go to a $250 Pilates studio. My gym is $10 a month and it's huge. That out there is free. Sleep is free. I know there's a lot of things that get in the way. There's a lot of obstacles for people. Can't imagine what it's like to be a single mom who maybe works multiple jobs. But there are things that you can rely on that don't cost money or that are not expensive. And that's the argument I always struggle with because I'm like, I want to understand where you're coming from when you say something like that, but at the same time, I'm like, I know I can give you 10 solutions right now of how you wouldn't spend a ton of money on your health. And you'd spend a lot less money going to the doctor versus
Yeah,
going to the doctor.
I've told you I've had clients that do the audit of
Yeah.
not going out to eat and changing how they shop,
Hmm.
and and the ones who are honest with me, right?
Yeah.
Um, I save them a ridiculous amount of money every month because I
Hmm.
audited how many times they went out to eat every week and what they bought at the grocery store. And we audited that to one time a week of going out to eat, changed what they did, taught them how to prepare and cook healthy foods long term over time that taste good. And I'm not talking a little, I'm talking $200, $300 a month savings.
Yeah. No,
Um,
it's a ton. It's
yeah,
a
they,
ton. Like I can tell you that too. Like Alston and I just were in a really bad habit of eating out too much because we've been so busy. It's not an excuse, but we let it get the best of us.
you made the
And
choice to go out and eat
yeah.
good. Yeah.
And we turned around and looked at each other 2 days ago. We were like, we gotta chill. Like we're spending way too much money going out to eat. We don't need to do that because I can go to the grocery store and spend between 100 and $150 for 7 days of food. And if I wanted to buy meal, like if I bought lunch, just lunch for us every day out, that's like close to 80 to $100 because of how expensive it is to eat out. And like I understand the argument of eating healthy while out is expensive. Yeah, it is. They're gonna upcharge for that. Getting a Chick-fil-A wrap is more expensive than getting a sandwich. But
Paying
I
for
can
the
make that
convenience.
Chick-fil-A, yeah, I can make that Chick-fil-A wrap at home, you know? So that's I always struggle a little bit with that argument because I'm like, I want to understand and I want to hear where you're coming from. And I want to be able to help people that can't afford to be healthy. But at the same time, if you would just listen, I can tell you that there's
Yeah,
10
I can
different ways.
provide a solution for you. I can help if you really like, do you want a solution or you just want to bitch about it all the time with your girlfriend on social media?
Yeah.
I made the mistake about a year ago there, at a former client, um, who was just honest with me. And she's like, I just don't have the time and energy and it's not important enough for me.
Yeah.
You
Tell me
good?
that.
Like,
Please tell
thank
me
God.
that.
I'm like,
Yeah.
thank God, because I'm banging my head against the wall.
Yeah.
And her and her friends on social had this little, and I really like went back on whether or not I wanted to say something. And I was I tried to be really nice, Gray. I did. I tried to be really, really as nice as I can be. And
You are really nice. You
I
just
even,
get to the point.
I even started out with like, hey guys, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just trying to have a different view on this. And their conversation was, um, lives are so busy. We have to get fast food, but it's so expensive because buying healthy food at the grocery store is so expensive, and we just don't have time to cook. Um, and that whole narrative, right? And the food industry is so bad, and that's the reason it's hard to stay in shape. And it's like, and I kind of came in with like, hey, I use my grocery store example,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then I said, you know, fast food really isn't fast food. Go sit in the line at Chick-fil-A at 5 o'clock. It's not fast food. It takes forever.
Right. Right.
And I said, and I just can't have. I know people that have personally learned how to cook food and save time. I know people who have
Well, yeah, because
cut
it's
their budget
one
out,
grocery, yeah, it's one grocery trip and
and
it could be one meal prep.
you can buy this food, and it's
Mhm.
healthier, but it's also cheaper. And like, I love a good, I love, I don't mind the fight, right? Like, I don't mind taking on the giant. And they really came at me hard. It's like, well, you don't know what it's like to be the mom, or you don't know what it's like to be this, or you know,
And they have no
da da
idea
da da
about you
da.
and
Yeah,
your
they're
life.
like, well, they know I work in this industry.
Yeah.
And it's just all of these excuses and reasons and blaming other people and blaming that. And that just doesn't work for me. It's
And
just,
I
it
just
doesn't
think
work for
that's
me in my own life either.
I think
Um,
that's funny because like you do know what it's like to be a parent and why is it different between being mom and dad? Like I do know sometimes mom takes on a little bit more of a role, but
yeah.
I would argue you take on a huge role inside of your child's life,
Mhm.
and I don't think that's fair.
It's just what I heard was, I heard the peanut, you remember the Peanuts, Charlie Brown, and remember the teacher, that was like, wah, 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 wah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I heard a little bit of the first couple posts, like I'm trying to understand, and after that, it was an echo chamber of wah, 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 wah.
Mhm.
When I don't make habit change and I put a goal to something and I don't do it, you know what I tell myself? It's just not important enough to me right now.
Correct.
That's it. There's no
Correct.
excuse. It's not anybody's. I just made a priority. I put it low on the priority and it became not important to me enough.
Mhm.
Right. Um, and when people start to say, well, it's just not important to me enough, just say that.
Just say that.
But here's what
Yes,
also, when
because
you come
that
back
is
from the
so
doctor,
freeing.
yeah, and what I say to people is, okay, if it's not that important to you, um, what's at risk for you to not make this important?
Mhm.
Okay, set all these goals, and now if you don't meet those goals, what's at risk?
Mhm.
Now they'll say, well, shoot, like my blood sugar was high last time I went to the doctor. They told me I need to lose 15 pounds, and they, the one guy, his blood pressure wasn't high yet, but it could possibly get high, so they put him on blood pressure medication as a prophylactic to it might be high later. Like, isn't that funny?
Mhm.
Blood
Yes.
pressure wasn't high, but it showed that it was increasing. It still wasn't high yet. So they put him on blood pressure medication just in case. And I
Mm.
had to talk him through that. I was like they put you on next you're gonna be on chemotherapy because you might get cancer. Like you know
Oh
what I'm
my
saying?
God.
Like you know what I'm saying? Like so
Yes.
um uh as I had a conversation, he's like, well, man, maybe this should be more important to me. And we started to make changes,
Mhm.
right? Because it is important to him, because I've said it all along, and I've said it multiple times. And I say this coming from a person that works in the education system. The reason I think health and wellness is the most important things we can teach our kids is because when they're adults and they lose their health and wellness, they don't give two shits about the Pythagorean theorem.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
don't.
Yes.
They don't
But
give two
then
shits
that,
about math and English. They don't give two shits about it because
yeah.
because I've been there. When I had neck surgery, I lost it. Nothing else
Mhm.
was important. Once you lose your
Mhm.
health, nothing else matters anymore. So the
Yeah.
best thing we can do for our population is teach them how to take care of
Teach them
themselves and be
health.
healthy.
I have one of my best friends who's been my best friend since 5 years old is in early childhood education. And she wants, like, it's a huge passion of hers to be able to uproot essentially education for early childhood. And we were just chatting about it the other day, and I was like, health and nutrition has to be a part of education. And it's just not. It is in a very stupid way. Like it is in such a, it's almost insulting how little they talk about it. So I'm like, you've got to bring back like home ec. You've got to bring back basic nutrition classes because I hate when I have a client, new client comes to me, they're 50 years old, and they're like, I don't know how to cook. That's crazy to me, and I'm very blessed. I've said this so many times, very blessed to grow up in a household where
The
I
cook,
was
yeah.
taught these things, but I also did a lot of this stuff on my own.
You're a
But
cooker.
still, I
Yeah.
am. But still, it's just if that were taught in schools as like we have, the extra classes, what are they called? Our
Elective.
I don't remember. Yeah, electives. If they're taught as an elective, like physical education should be a requirement through all your years. Home ec should be somewhere in there, maybe like 2 semesters of home ec, a nutrition class that ties in with your biology or whatever. Like that should be a requirement.
I had
And
a
it's
parent.
not.
I had a parent come to me, um, and said, "Hey, I want to." I didn't even know who this parent is, and like one on one in places like that are very awkward for me. Like I do very good with a monologue, right?
Mhm.
Where I sit and print. I presented information a lot in my life. I spoke early on in my fitness career. I spoke a lot at places. That's easy for me. It's a monologue. Once you
Mhm.
start getting that one-on-one dialogue, it's like I turn into like I just kind of shrivel. Like um, and a parent caught me, and she's like, "Hey," I'm like, "Hey," I'm trying to scoot around. She's like, "No, no, no, no. I gotta tell you something." I'm like, "All right, shoot, like, am I in trouble?" And she's like, "My kid came home and made the decree that our family needed to do less foods in a bag and less chips and less snacks and start getting into vegetables, and actually went with me to the grocery store to buy foods for the family after being in your class and talking and discussing and watching content around the food industry and healthy eating." She goes, "That is awesome. I was so proud of my kid." I'm like, "Wow, that's awesome." If it's one kid out of 50, That's awesome,
You've
right?
done something, but
You've
that's
done
the
something.
thing. And like just having these conversations with people will influence them to then like imagine what he's going to grow up to do with his own family.
Yeah.
But that's the cycle of it. That's where it has to start. Cause like you've always said, habits are caught. So when you can teach these habits, they are caught, they start being implemented into families.
Yeah.
And then the family keeps carrying that on. So like we talk about Erica all the time, the things she's teaching her children. Her children, her three boys are going to grow up and do the same thing because that's what they lived in, you know?
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's breaking
she
that
changed
cycle.
the path of her family. And
Hmm.
listen, if there's anything she should be proud of, not just her 160-pound weight loss. And I actually texted with her last week. Um, it's the listen, it is so hard
Hmm.
to break a cycle that's generational and it's
Oh
family
yeah.
related.
Uh-huh.
I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's your relationship. I don't care if it's your health. I don't care if it's how you treat your family. I don't care if your daddy issues, mom, whatever. Having the wherewithal to break that cycle is very hard,
Very
right?
hard. Mhm.
Because your reality is based off what you grew up in. So, um, when you break that cycle within your family, say we're going to stop and be healthy, like Erica did, man, that might be the greatest compliment I can give somebody. Say, hey, you broke the
Mhm.
cycle in your family, right?
Mhm.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
phenomenal. I grew up in,
Yeah.
I say this, I grew up in a very healthy family. We didn't have a lot of processed foods. I was allowed 1 2 liter of soda a month. Really, literally
Ration
one.
it.
I did, bro. I did. Ice cream was once a month.
Mhm.
I could have ice cream once a month. We didn't have fruit roll-ups and we didn't have things like that. I had to eat healthy food. Both my parents were active. My dad ran like 25 marathons. My mom was super active, both healthy, weight, and in shape. It was just the expectation of the family
Mhm.
to the point that when I got older and went to other families, I was a little bit shocked,
Mhm.
right? I was going to say we can kind of tell where our importance is in our culture with food and health when um, go to a hospital and go to the cafeteria.
Mhm.
Go to the food that's offered at hospitals. I mean, didn't I think somebody put a post up one time of a little McDonald's train, a little McDonald's and a Starbucks inside of a hospital, right? I don't know if that was real. I have a hard time thinking they'd put a McDonald's inside of a hospital.
But it doesn't surprise me. Like nothing surprises me at this point.
Yeah, I
Starbucks is
know.
not as bad. I actually
I,
don't mind Starbucks food,
I
but
don't,
because
but I
it's lots
don't
of
want to
like
believe
eggs
it.
and stuff.
Like I definitely would prefer the blue pill sometimes than the red pill. Like I tell myself I want to know the truth, know the truth, know the truth on all things. But after a while, sometimes when you start seeing the truth of things, you start thinking like I really wish I would have taken the blue pill. Like
Okay, but
when I
that's
watch
what's happening right now.
When I watch Matrix, sometimes I'm like Neo, no, blue
Yeah,
pill, blue pill, bro. It's a
right.
whole different movie. You live in
But that's
complete
what's
ignorance and bliss.
happening. That's what's
Yeah.
happening
Yeah, we're
now.
getting
Is
red
like,
pilled. We are 100.
yes.
Oh my goodness. Are we as a cult? And if you don't want to face that, you're ignorant. You are
Yeah. And
completely ignorant. If there's not a little bit of the red pill, if you haven't swallowed and your eyes went, oh my gosh, $1.6 billion of government money went to researchers around health and wellness. Like, oh my
that's
gosh,
weird.
they redacted COVID vaccine papers. Like, holy cow, we have 2 and 3 times um more sickness in this country, yet we have 2 and 3 times more vaccines for kids. Like that's red pill. That makes you go and now that they're gonna flame you and be like, oh, you're crazy. Oh, it's conspiracy theorist. I'm like, I don't know. Like Department of Education was found back in the day and we went from first to 24th in the world. Like maybe it ain't the department, maybe that's the problem, right? Like the department, maybe it's that, right? You get red pilled and you start to be that person that sits in the room and we're seeing it within the last 9 days. When you're in a room full of people creating propaganda and one people puts their hand up and goes, I don't know, it makes it a little easier for the second person to be like, yeah, I
Mm,
don't know either. Like
yeah.
something's fishy here,
Yeah.
right?
I
And then the
just, it's
third,
important to question it all.
Well,
you know?
we should be allowed to question it at all,
Yeah.
right?
I even just saw this video and I tried to look it up online. And there's only one article about it, but like common cold medicines are being pulled off the shelf.
Well, why is there only one article? Like, why is this not bigger news, right? Like,
That's, and like part of me is like, okay, is it true? But then the other part of me
can
is
you not
like,
find it on
why is
Google?
no, yeah, I did. I
Yeah.
eventually
Well, you
did.
found
And
one
it's
article on Google. It makes you wonder who owns NyQuil, right? Like, listen, extra strength cough medicine. I chugged a bottle of that crap in college, bro. Right? So,
it is, well, they're pulling it off because it's not as effective as a nasal decongestant. So, but it's just like all of these things I think are just going to start happening. And I just want people to know that it's okay to question it and it's okay to be proven wrong. It's also okay to be proven right.
yeah, I've
It's
done tons
okay
of
for
things
me
that
to
are wrong.
say, yeah, it's okay for me to say, I'm really having trouble with understanding that concept. And then I'm eventually proven wrong. And I will take that on the chin. It doesn't
Yeah,
bother
it
me at
doesn't
all to be
bother me at
proven
all. Yeah,
wrong
yeah,
because I'm not so religiously tied to anything that might be untrue. I'm tied
yeah.
to things that are true.
I also believe in
So,
apologizing.
oh
I
yeah,
also
100%.
totally believe that if I
100%.
do something wrong or I'm off on something, I don't mind apologizing
I will
for it.
let you
Like it
know.
doesn't. Now I don't do it loosely because you ever know people apologize for everything, but there's never a change. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
you can apologize enough, but you got to have a
that
change.
affects me really deeply.
What?
Like
What?
me apologizing affects me really deeply, and like it's my kind of closure.
Hmm.
Like if I was wrong on something, I'm going to tell you I was wrong on something, and I feel better because I apologize. I cannot lie, and I cannot sit there with somebody mad at me if I didn't deserve it, or if I did deserve it. I have to do something about it.
Hmm.
So I will always try to find that closure in
I think
that,
it's
and
a
I
care. I
will
think it's a
hundred
care. I think it's a character
yeah.
trait for me.
Yeah, and I will 100% when I'm wrong. I will tell you. And I like to have really deep intellectual conversations about this stuff because I want to understand it from all sides because I think I'm doing myself a disservice if I don't.
Hmm.
If I'm so heavily tied to one idea around an issue, but I'm not listening to the other ideas around the issue, like that's a disservice to me. I can choose to believe those or not, but it's a disservice if I don't at least know what they are, you know?
That doesn't mean I have to believe it, but I'd like to understand. Yeah,
Why? Yeah, and I think that's important.
I, one word I've learned to hate is perception.
Mhm.
If I have one more person say, "Well, we got to do it this way because of the perception," what?
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
care that much about perception? Like I don't care about perception.
No.
Gray, when I tell you this, I comes from the deepest part of my heart. I genuinely don't care about what people think and what their perception is because it's not true.
Yeah.
What I do care about, right? If I hear one more leader go, "Well, you gotta worry about the perception," but I might stab my eyeball out. Which I guess why would I stab my eyeball out? Stab their eyeball out, right? But
Let them know.
yeah, let them know, right? Um, what I care about is perspective. I care about your perspective. Don't talk to me
Yeah.
about your perception.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your perspective and help me understand that more.
Yeah. Because at
Right?
the end of the day, like we've all gone through different life experiences, and that's why we think around certain ideas the way that we do. And so, like, if somebody that's been raised differently than me or raised the
Mhm.
same and had a different life experience, like, I want to know why you feel the way that you do.
Yeah,
Because
if you're overweight and you come to me and I say, well, it's all about your choices. You made bad choices. One that can be they know they make bad choices. That can be lack of empathetic. I had
yeah.
somebody tell me one more time. It's like talking about kids that were overweight when they were young. And they're, kids that were overweight when they were young and they're older, they don't need to be called, they don't need told they're fat and overweight. Their moms would tell them their whole life. Like it's said in a
Yeah.
joke, but it's true. But if you come to me and you're like, listen, here's the deal. I didn't have a lot of parents at home. My parents weren't at
Hmm.
home a lot. Um, we ate a lot of fast food and put a lot of junk food. I was also food rewarded when I was a kid. If I did something right, they gave me food. Um, I didn't have parents that modeled that healthy behavior. It wasn't important to them. Both of my parents are dead. My mom, was diabetic and died of a heart attack. My dad died of cancer. They're not here. I saw that growing up. Um, and I just don't know how to change my habits. But I'm scared that I'm going to end up like both my parents. What do I do? That's my perspective on health. I don't know. If you come to me and you say that, One, I'm going to have complete empathy for your situation. Go, hey man, this dude's struggling. We're going to do one habit at a time, right? I'm going to work with
Yeah.
you. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to think poorly of you. I'm going to say, how can I help you start one at a time? Because now you have little kids.
Yeah. This is
Wouldn't
like
it?
what Mike talked about. It was like he's always like, ask why.
Yes.
Why?
I've thought
Why?
about,
And
have you thought about that a
yeah.
lot? I've thought
Oh
about that a
yeah.
lot.
And because I've
Yeah.
always done it, but I've never like just
Yeah.
framed it that way.
Yeah.
And you and I talk a lot of the time about how important it is to be introspective. We talked about this yesterday, but that's my personal responsibility to kind of question the decisions that I've made and question my life choices and what I've gone through and be able to analyze why I made that decision, you know?
I help a lot of people because I care about them and I don't get paid for it because I care about them and I'll give them quick tips.
Hmm.
I have a friend of mine that came to me and said, hey, I have a really good friend that wants to start their nutrition journey. I've done a little bit about it. We're friends. Can you give me some like tips on like macros in a workout? And I said, hey man, you can Google that. I will help you. Um, but if that was the answer, none of us would be over. If all we had to do was Google what should my macros be and send me a good workout, you can go to Chat GPT right now and go to Google right now and be like, give me a 4-day workout for Planet Fitness. I'm 200 pounds and I want to lose 1 pound a week. Tell me what my macros should be. You'll get that.
Hmm.
And I said, hey, your friend's problem is not a macros and a fitness problem. And I used exactly what Mike said. I said, start asking why. Why are you not working out and why are you eating healthy? Because the answer is
Hmm.
not that.
Hmm.
The answer is, well, I just don't have a lot of time and I eat out a lot. So why?
Hmm.
Why don't you have a lot of time? Why do you eat out a lot? Well, I'm really busy. Okay, then where are your priorities? What are you doing? We don't
Yeah.
have
What does
a,
your schedule look
yes,
like?
what's your schedule? And they come to find out they do have time. They do have the ability. Um, well, I eat late at night. Well, why?
Yeah.
Well, someone told me I should fast.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yep.
Like, what are you doing? Um, and I thought about that. It's so interesting that you brought that up because I've thought about that a lot with people. Um, the more we ask, we don't have a macros and a I need a program problem.
No.
Nobody has that problem. When
Hmm.
people come to me, that's the same reason I don't write meal plans. You don't have a meal plan problem.
Hmm.
You don't have a workout problem. You don't have a macros problem, right? You have a
Hmm.
habits problem,
Hmm.
right? And
Right.
breaking habits is so hard.
Yep.
It's hard for me. I challenge every day. There are a couple of habits I want to improve
Hmm.
that man, it's
If I
hard.
could do it, yeah,
I
it'd
can
be
do it.
different. But that's the whole thing. It's a lot easier to be lazy and overweight in this culture that we have because
And
it's
get
like
and
we're
get
tired
medicines.
from everything. Yeah,
And get
and
medicines.
we're tired from work. It is really hard to work 5 days a week, 6 days a week. It's tough. I live in that life. We all live in that life for the
Mhm.
most part. Like it is really, really hard.
But if you tell me it's important to you,
You're gonna find
I have
a
to
way.
see evidence in your life that it is important to you, right?
Hmm.
If you tell me it's important for my family to eat healthy, I have to see evidence. If you work in a business and they're going to start a healthcare plan, like or like a wellness plan, I need to see evidence from people that it is important to you if you're the boss,
Hmm.
right? If you say, "Hey,
Yeah.
we're going to start a wellness plan at work," I need to see evidence that that's important to you
Yeah, you
before
have
I
to show
act.
me.
Before I
Yeah.
act, I need to see evidence that is because if you don't, then you're just telling me you want to check something off to tell your employees, "Oh, we have a wellness plan." No, you don't.
Hmm.
No, you don't. You waste people's time 1 hour a month. That's what
Hmm.
you do, right?
Hmm.
Um, it's gotta be important. I gotta see evidence that it is important to you because I'll tell you, you can probably look at my checkbook and I can find out real quick what's important to me, and that's food.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow, right? Food is very important to me. You know,
Hmm.
my time, um, jujitsu and exercise is very important to me,
And it's
right?
evident, and I think it's something too, it has to be built over time. Like you can tell me it's important to you, and it might be just once a week at the beginning because you don't know how to implement it every day. And that's still making it a priority in some sense. But, all of a sudden it's 7 days a week and you're a totally different person.
Yeah. I stayed up too late last night. I did I went to bed like 10:40. It's pretty late for me. Usually like 10
Fell asleep at
a.m.
8 on the couch.
Fell asleep at 8. Yeah. And I had this conversation. It's like, why am I not going to bed? And this thing inside my head went,
Hmm.
because it wasn't important to you tonight.
Hmm.
And you're probably going to face the consequences. My HRV was 38 and I had 6.1 hours of sleep and I had crappy REM sleep. And I went, I paid the price. I paid the
Hmm.
price for making a stupid decision.
Hmm.
Like that's the consequences. Right. So, um, I do think we're hitting a shift in culture around health and fitness and wellness. Um,
Yeah.
the fact that this company, and I found out through a third party of somebody that was involved, had a big, huge forum around value-based care, and it was almost like an emergencies like get together of all these, like, tells me a change is coming.
I really hope so. And
I do
I'm
too.
like obviously want it for everyone. It's not just something that's going to be accessible for a certain group of people. Like this directly affects everyone. Having access to ultra processed foods and being lazy and healthcare that is not always, I mean, it's a lot of the time below par. That affects every single person on the
Yeah.
planet,
When I
or
heard
at
when
least
I
in our
heard
country.
when I heard in that Casey Means interview, I think she did it with Tucker Carlson, which I hated that they did their first big thing with Tucker Carlson.
I loved it because it's
Oh,
so
I'm
controversial.
just like, oh, now we're gonna politicize it. Like, I wish they would have gone on.
Yeah. No,
I about said I wish they would have gone on Joe Rogan first, but man, everybody's politicizing him too, right?
no, yeah, no,
When
they
they don't
are.
believe like that, that dude's the most moderate, middle of the road hippie
Hmm.
than anybody.
He
Like
is like one of my favorite people on the world.
2016 comedic acts completely made fun and bashed Trump, right?
Yeah.
Like he's a middle of the road guy, right? And now
But
they're like,
he's
oh,
like so about personal responsibility
they're
and
like, he's a right
accountability and
wing
like all
Nazi
these
now.
things.
He's a right wing Nazi now.
I'm like,
He's the
yeah.
toxic masculinity, right?
I'm
Um,
like, do y'all know that he has a wife and like 3 girls?
yeah, yeah. He
He
said
doesn't have any
my favorite
sons.
people are women. He says
Yeah.
my three favorite people are women, right?
Yeah.
He's like, well, I
Yeah.
win. My three favorite people are women, right?
Yeah.
Um,
People just want to find something wrong with everything,
well,
and that's really
we want to politicize
bothersome.
it and label everything, right?
Yeah, that's
But
really
I was
bothersome to
upset
me.
when I was a little bit like, man, I wish they didn't go on um Tucker Carlson first because they're going to politicize it. I said, but if you take away and when I sent the interview to people and I
Same.
said, hey, take away the fact that Tucker did it,
Yeah. And
no
I was
matter
like,
how
he
you
barely
feel.
speaks. He doesn't speak a
Yeah,
lot.
just listen to what they say. And man, I had people that listen to that. They're like, holy crap, I got to change things now.
Mhm.
He's like,
Same.
oh my God. And the one that I talked about that the when the cigarette industry got sued, and a lot of
Hmm.
those main people went from the cigarette industry to start working for the food industry.
Hmm.
Doesn't that make you go like, hmm.
Huh. Those things should not have
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
to do
yeah,
with
yeah,
each other.
yeah, yeah,
One is like heavily chemical based. We know
yeah,
it's really bad for us. And
yeah,
now, oh, okay, now you're making it heavily
yeah.
chemically based and it's really bad for us.
Have you seen
Yeah.
old school 50s propaganda that says things like, well, uh, 1 out of 4 doctors choose camels to smoke?
Yes.
Have you seen things
Yes.
like that? And
But
they said
that's like,
smoking really wasn't that bad for you. And
you think back to that. This is not a new issue. This is a
mhm.
very old issue that now is like worth a lot more money, essentially. And it's a
Yeah,
lot more intertwined
yeah,
now than it ever has been.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you look back at these things, and this is all like so accessible with a Google search.
Have
You can look.
you ever heard of the Tuskegee Project
Mhm.
in I think it was Alabama,
Mhm.
where the
Yeah.
government in the 50s went in and told large populations of the African American communities that they were giving them vaccines, and what
Mhm.
they were giving them was syphilis to see how it
Mhm.
affected them.
Mhm.
You're
It's
like,
awful.
you tell somebody who doesn't know about that, and they're like, our
What the?
government did that? Like, should that what? No, I said we've done atrocities on our own populations, right? It
Mhm.
used to be that like nobody wanted to believe in MK Ultra. Oh, we would ne oh my gosh, did you just freak out?
I
We
love
would
that episode of Joe
never,
Rogan so much.
we would never do that. We would
Yeah.
never.
But
Then
we
you
do.
then you look at Ted Kaczynski and the Unabomber, and you find out some of the
Mhm.
stuff they did on him in at Harvard when he was in Harvard, and you're like, no wonder he's crazed and hates the government and bombed people, right? And I'm gonna say it when you read the manifesto, part of me is kind of like, I get it. Now the bombing thing is not like.
Crazy.
Like, yeah, he lost me at the bombing and blowing people's fingers off with nail bombs, right?
Hmm.
But he kind of got me at like, hey, technology is kind of going to start to run the show, right? Um, and you read things like, well, our government, and I was that kid that was brought up to think like the United States would never do that.
Right, of
Our government
course.
would never do that. Tucker
Mhm.
Carlson talks about that moment he got blue pilled, and he's like, there's some atrocities done here, right? There's some scary things that we've done.
Mhm.
So as I look back at and I have perspective on all of that, I go, yeah, it's not above the possibilities that the food industry is corrupt to make people sicker so that the big pharma can make more money and they're all in bed together against
Mhm.
the American people to make money.
Mhm.
No, that makes sense now,
Mhm.
right? I mean, I didn't watch a lot of regular TV, and I told you we had this conversation. I loved the Olympics.
Mhm.
One of the first years I've like I watched regular like NBC or whatever, and first time I watched like regular NBC TV in years, right? Because I love the ignorance of a rom com on Netflix at night, right? You know, every Matthew McConaughey rom com I've probably watched 1,000
The
times,
best.
right? Right?
Same.
Right?
How to Lose a Guy is
How to Lose
gold.
a Guy in 10 Days. I'll watch that every time. It's 20 years old, and I'll
Hmm.
still watch it because I like to have a little bit of red pill in my life too, or right,
Yeah.
or a little
Blue pill.
blue pill in my
Yeah.
life too,
Yeah.
right? I like to have this like just dumb, not paying attention. But when I watch the news and I was like, or watch the Olympics, and I was like, holy crap! Every commercial
Drugs.
is a drug commercial. My kid started humming the HPV vaccine.
Yeah.
And
It's
we'd
bad.
be driving down the road, and my kid would start humming the HPV vaccine jingle. And I'm like, my kid, I need to red pill my kid.
Mhm.
All right. I need to red
Yeah.
pill my kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really do like, I know listening to this episode, some people are like, whoa, these guys are crazy.
it's
And
fine.
I'm totally fine if you think I'm a little nuts. I really don't care. But I hope that if you listen to this, you start kind of like just questioning a little bit. It's good for you. Don't blindly follow everything that you see.
Yeah.
Question things. Like make sure that you're taking the time to question whatever's out there. Don't just automatically believe it because you've seen it,
Yeah, you need
you
to
know?
advocate for yourself in your health journey. Okay,
Mhm.
you really do. Um, it will be important to you when you start to lose your health
Yeah.
because
And
it's going to
I
happen.
hope that you don't get to a place where you lose your health in a very, harmful way, obviously. Like start taking care of yourself now in ways that we know are true, which are strength training and eating well and going to sleep. We know those things work. So,
Well, I just got an email that said you joined the Zoom episode
yeah,
28, right?
28.
We're going to have some people on, hopefully 29, 30. We're going to start looking at changes in personal training. I'm going to have a friend
Yeah.
that's a
Okay,
personal
that's a
trainer
really exciting
and the
one. I love
changes
it.
in the personal training industry. Have somebody on that I really respect,
Mhm.
very good at his job, who's been a personal trainer for a long time, long time. Is very intelligent, and we're going to talk about the changes of the personal training industry. What we've seen, you know, what COVID did, what pre-COVID, what we've seen,
Mm.
where we're at, where we're headed, um, in private training, group training. We can talk about all that. We're gonna have
Yeah.
Mike Wines on more. We're gonna have somebody come in and talk about culture, leadership, things like that. So, hey, episode 28's in the books. Good day. Hey, I had a feeling it was gonna get like this today, right?
I know,
So
but I needed it. I gotta
yeah,
vent
I don't mind it.
sometimes.
Yeah, I don't mind it. All right, I love you, girl. I'll talk to you
Love
soon.
ya.
With all due respect.